Hey. What's up, everybody? It is Uncle Mad here. Hopefully, the audio's going a little better than the last time I did this. I tried to do a couple things differently to fix that, but who knows? You never know with this crap. Titans back today. First game of the regular season against the New York Giants later this afternoon at Nissan Stadium. I will be there in the stadium, so of course, there'll be a game day vlog coming from that. If you haven't done so already, check out the game day vlog from the Nashville SC game last night, or yesterday afternoon, actually, that came out last night. So, went a little bit off on the referee in that one. Kind of, I don't know. I go back and forth on how critical I should be of referees, but didn't think we got the best run of it in that match. But to see my full thoughts, go back, watch the Nashville SC LA Galaxy game day vlog. But today, football's back. It's the Titans. It's the entire NFL. We've got a full slate of games going today. Should be fun. A lot of good matchups, a lot of interesting matchups. Before we get into Titans, I want to go over what I've got, my best bets for the day. Y'all know me, the gambling expert to end all gambling experts. Not really. I'm terrible. I try to listen to people that I think are smarter than me and follow their advice, and then sprinkle in a few nuggets of my own ideas, but we'll see what we got. With there only being 30 minutes to kick off on the early slate of games, I wanted to start with that. So I'll tell you right now what I have already locked in. I've got Baltimore -7, New Orleans -5.5, and I've got Carolina on the money line against the Browns. Now, the problem with two of those picks, Baltimore -7 over the Jets, and New Orleans -5.5 over the Falcons, is that just about every person I follow for gambling advice, for betting advice, those two games on their card. And if everybody's on the same thing, it's a bad omen. So, I mean, and these definitely both feel like very square, very sharp, I don't know, square picks, because you look at Baltimore and the Jets, you're like, the Jets don't have Zach Wilson. Joe Flacco is 100 years old. The Jets kind of stink to begin with. Baltimore's trying to come bounce back after an injury-plagued season. Lamar Jackson's playing for a contract. They should kill the Jets. But just the more you talk through it, the more you're like, that kind of feels like a trap. And the New Orleans, same thing. It's like a lot of people love the New Orleans to bounce back this year. Love their defense, love the wide receiver core, love what Jameson might be able to do if he's healthy. Falcons, most people are predicting them to be amongst the worst teams in the NFL. So 5.5, that's a touchdown, pretty much 2 field goals, whatever you want to do. I'm not, it isn't a math show. That seems like it should be big. So a lot of people are on that. But once again, if a lot of people are on the same things when it comes to gambling, that usually is a bad sign for those picks. But I'm locked into those two, so I'm stuck with them. I got Carolina money line. This is another one where it's probably just with the Browns without Deshaun Watson. I really don't know what that roster is anyway with him, because they kind of got rid of all their wide receivers. They've got good running back, obviously, with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt. Defense is pretty solid with Myles Garrett, but Carolina seemed like they were, maybe a quarterback away from being a decent team. I'm not sure about their coach, Matt Rule. I don't know if he really is made to be in the NFL, so that could be a setback for them. But I think Baker Mayfield's a better quarterback than people think he is. I think, last year he was injured the whole season, and he kind of got run out of Cleveland after getting them to the play time in 100 years and getting the playoff years. So I think Baker going to Carolina makes them a much better team. I think the Browns, even with Deshaun Watson back, I'm not 100% sure they're going to be a good team. It's weird, so something I'm on. I want to find at least one or two more picks while we're here live, just to add, because smart gambling would say, hey, I got 3 picks. That's pretty safe. Let's just keep it that. It's week 1. We really don't know. Safe. Keep a short card. At the same time, the other part of me says I want to have action all over the place and have a lot of interest and a lot of fun stuff happening with the game. So let's look through the slate. Let's see if we can find some games that we want to add some action on. I don't like anything because Feels like New England should be able to keep that game close at the same time. This might be the season that New England finally goes off the cliff, but you can't really predict that because Bill Belichick's always going to probably keep them good, but I don't want to play anything there. Steelers, Bengals. Bengals are favored by. He never looked good in Chicago. It was a mess. So how much of that was him? How much of that was the team itself? Cincinnati obviously coming off being in the Super Bowl. Really good team, really dangerous offense, but is there a Super Bowl hangover? You usually see the team that lost the Super Bowl kind of not play so well the following season. Don't see anything. I like 49ers 6.5 point fit. If you've seen like the early video out from warmups, it is a massive storm in Chicago. The field is drenched. It looks borderline unplayable. It's crazy. The under is plummeting. It was like 40 something to start with, and now looking at it live, it's down to over under 37.5. That's crazy, which you look at the 49ers 6.5 point favorite. Over unders at 37.5. So if you're thinking there's not many points, what are you thinking here? It's like a 17-3 game, 17-10. Oh, I gotta stop snorting into the microphone. Sorry about that. Don't really know. I don't like anything there. Eagles, I'm tempted to take Eagles right of what they did this offseason to think that they're better than they have been recently. Philadelphia, everybody just is all over them, thinking they're going to be a potential Super Bowl team. 5.5 points in that game. They'd be something there. I'm going to put that down as a maybe. AFC South, even though they haven't in like 8 years, but they're 7-point favorites over the Texans. A lot of people think the Texans might be expected. I don't really think so. I think the Texans are going to stink, but I'm not exactly convinced that good as people think they are either. So this is one I kind of like. Just looking at +3 at the Washington Commanders. I'm almost tempted to go Jacksonville money line on that game because I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be a lot better in year 2. I think they've got some good weapons around him now. Their defense isn't that great, and a lot's going to be on how much he progresses, what they do this year. But Washington, I have a feeling, could be one of the disasters of the league. Like, they had a decent defense. They've got some weapons on offense. But their big solution at quarterback was to bring in Carson Wentz. That'd be it for old Carson Wentz. But they think they're going to do something with that quarterback. I'm looking at Jacksonville +3. I'm going to put that on the May pile for a second. Kansas City at Arizona, 6.5 point favorites. I'm a lot higher. I know a lot of people think that the rest of the AFC West has caught the Chiefs down a level, but to me, Mahomes is on another level when it comes to quarterback, and I think he's one of those. And Brady, where if roster, he's going to make you a competitive team. But 6.5 is a big number there. Arizona usually plays good at the start of the season. Titans fans, we saw that last year when they came in here and embarrassed us week 1. So 6.5 is maybe a bigger number than I'd want to lay with the Chiefs, but I am a little higher on the Chiefs than I think some people are. But I'm going to skip that. Las Vegas Raiders at Los Angeles Chargers. I think the Chargers might be the most overrated team coming into the season. Everybody seems to love them. They love, Austin Eckler's like back at the top of all the fantasy rankings this year for some reason. I don't really know why. Do people just think he was hurt for like the last 2 years and that's why he wasn't good? People love them. They're like everybody's, secret team that they think might be the big jump off team. But I mean, we saw these two teams play at the end of last season in a must win to get into the playoffs game, and the Chargers couldn't win it. Their coach, he's like one of the major follow the analytics guys, and I think I'm not a huge fan of that. I don't think, analytics I think are huge. I think they're very important, but he's one of those guys who I think just goes 100% by the analytics and doesn't really follow his gut, doesn't really follow the game flow as much. We see him going for 4th downs when he shouldn't. We see him not going for stuff when maybe he should. They might win this game just because it's, they're at home. it's a good start for them. But I mean, I think the Raiders improved as much as anybody did, adding Devontae Adams, uh, adding who's the defensive player they added? They added somebody big on defense. Chandler Jones. I'm not going to play anything there. I don't really see a play there, but I would lean Raiders 3.5 if I was going to make a play there. Packers at Vikings. Vikings, another team a lot of people think with their new coach coming in, kind of changing their offensive philosophy a little bit, that they're going to jump up and be a little bit better this season. They might even be a dark horse to jump over the Packers for the top of the NFC North. Another team that probably plays better early in the season and not in prime time than they do when more's on the line. So definitely a game they could win. 2-point favorite. Nothing for me there. Titans Giants, obviously the game we're going to later today. Titans currently a 5.5-point favorite in that game. No play for me though. I think the Titans, we'll get into it. I think the Titans should win, but I don't like to bet Titans games. I don't like to generally bet on teams that I support because I don't know. Just makes, if you do screw up, if you do lose a game, it's like a double whammy to lose the game and lose your bet. Although I did bet Wake Forest minus 13 against Vandy yesterday, so that was a winner. I will bet against my teams, but I will not bet for my teams. But I wouldn't take Giants 5.5 there. I would maybe lean Titans 5.5, but like I said, I'm not going to take it because not really something I would do. And the primetime game tonight, Sunday Night Football, Cowboys hosting the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tampa Bay currently at 2.5-point favorite. A lot of negativity on the Cowboys just because they kind of seem to have peaked for this phase of their team. The coach isn't very good. Got a lot of injuries, but the Bucs, Brady had his whole weird thing in preseason. There's all these reports that him and Giselle have had a falling out, that they're having problems because she's not happy with him being back playing after he was supposed to retire. Last season, he had some struggles early in the season in primetime games. This game in particular, this was an exact matchup of week 1 last year that the Bucs struggled and didn't get it done. I'm thinking Cowboys 2.5 is not a terrible play there. I wish I could get more points with the Cowboys. Might buy a couple extra points there, but I'm not going to bet anything on that now. I'm going to keep that in the back of my brain, and later today, as the day goes, if I want to add something more to my card there, I may add something there because I like the Cowboys. But I'm looking at if I was going to go Cowboys plus 2.5, minus 110. Money line for the Cowboys is plus 115. Might not be the worst thing in the world to sprinkle a little bit on both and see what happens, but not going to do anything with that right now. All right, so the two maybes that I put into my card to add. Eagles minus 5.5, Jaguars plus 3. I'm going to go ahead and lock both those in. I feel pretty good about both of those. Eagles more so than the Jaguars, but once again, the Eagles, that also feels like a square pick because everybody loves the Eagles, thinks they're going to be really good this season. They're playing the Lions, who most people think are going to stink. I may have just locked myself into like all the squarest of square plays today. So, all right, let's wrap it up. Here's what we got. Baltimore minus 7, New Orleans minus 5.5, Carolina money line, Jacksonville plus 3, and Philadelphia minus 5.5. Yeah, that feels like a really square card. I regret everything. Enough of that. Let's talk Titans. Today, the Titans kick off the season for the 2022 football year. That's a weird way to say that. Hosting the New York Football Giants. Weird game today. It's definitely going to have some emotions and themes that you wouldn't, necessarily want added to this game. It's New York Giants coming to Nashville to play the Titans on September 11th, 2022. A lot of extra energy will be there for the Giants, you would think. There's probably going to be a lot of New York Giants fans at the stadium today, I would expect. It's a weird one to be rooting against a team like that on September 11th, but it is what it is. From a matchup perspective, I don't like Daniel Jones at all. I've never seen anything that makes me think he's going to be a good NFL quarterback. The Giants obviously don't have that much faith in him. They didn't pick up his 5th-year option. We saw how that worked out for the Titans with Marcus Mariota, where he ended up getting replaced halfway through his last year by Ryan Tannehill. Titans, the defense, though, that's the big two keys to this game to me are both on the Titans side of the ball. I think the defense, what they do, how they adjust to the loss of Harold Landry to the torn ACL is going to be huge if they get somebody who can help them if someone can step up and kind of, no Harold Landry, but if they can get a little bit out of Rashad Weaver, then get a little bit out of. There's been, suggestions that Danico Autry might play in some of the spots that Harold Landry used to play in. So if they can just not fall off a cliff in terms of the production they got out of Harold Landry, I think they can hold down the fort because otherwise the defense is solid, should be pretty good, but that's a huge piece of the puzzle to lose. That was probably the one player that I would think they couldn't have afforded to lose was Harold Landry, and he's gone for the season now with the ACL. But how they adjust to that, that's going to be huge. I would expect our run defense to be able to mostly contain Saquon Barkley. It's hard to say with him, he's had flashes of greatness since he's been in the NFL, but he's had injuries and just he's never quite looked like the electric, unstoppable player he was in college that made him worthy of a top 10 pick as a running back. I would think we'd be able to contain him mostly. And like I said, I'm not threatened by Daniel Jones. But if losing the generate pressure easily that we get from a player like Harold Landry and we revert back to the Titans defense where we couldn't get any pressure on the quarterback and pick us apart, even a mediocre part that Titans defense from 2 years ago. I think the secondary is better. I think the linebackers are better than what we start today. So that's a concern for me on the ball. Offensively, obviously a lot of changes, particularly in the receiver core. Austin Hooper, new tight end. The rookie who I will at some point in this season, I promise I'm going to learn to pronounce his name, but that day is not today. Robert Woods coming over from the Rams. The Rams certainly looked like they probably could have used Robert Woods on Thursday night against the Bills because it was Cooper Kupp or nothing for them in that game. So how healthy is he coming off an ACL? What kind of impact can he make? Rookie Treylon Burks, rookie Kyle Phillips stepping into key roles for the team. What can they do? Can they stretch the field? I mean, and I was saying it all year long. You could see it maybe more so at games and you could see it watching on TV. Even as good as A.J. Brown was, he got no separation. We had no separation from our receivers last year. If they made catches, it was somebody hanging all over them. If they, A.J. Brown made so many just spectacular one-handed catches where he had coverage all over him. He had no separation. He had to make a crazy catch. Do we have something new in the playbook? And a lot of that I don't think is on the receivers. I said it towards the end of the season after the last game stuff. We don't have those type of schemes open that you see some of the top teams do. Like the Patriots, great example. They haven't had what you would consider a really good stud receiver since Randy Moss. But Josh McDaniels and Bill Belichick and the other kind of people behind their offense have always been able to draw up plays, draw up schemes to get their guys open. And that's something that we did not really have last year. You just watch our route trees last year. They were very basic, very rudimentary. There was nothing in the playbook that was getting the guys open. And you need some of that in the modern NFL because receivers is good. I mean, the athleticism on both sides of the ball has just gone through the roof. The joke used to be guys who play defensive back only play defensive back because they're not good enough to catch the ball as receiver. Defensive back now just because they're really good at defensive back. The quality on that side of the ball has increased where you can't just rely on one-on-one matchups, just hope your receivers get open and go from there. You got to scheme some stuff up. And we've got, his name's escaping me now, but we added the guy from the Texans who's now our passing game coordinator. So hopefully he can put some wrinkles in, add some things to the passing game to more creative, a little bit more dynamic than it was before. Tannehill, I know a lot of people were expecting regression from him last year, and he still had a pretty good regular season. But obviously the Bengals playoff game left such a bad mouth with the 3 interceptions, which I still go back and the players he was throwing to, they were bad throws. He should have made better decisions. But once again, receivers weren't open. We had nothing that was helping him out in that regard from the playbook side of things. So hopefully with some fresh eyes, with some fresh ideas coming into the passing game this season, he can get over that hiccup of the playoff game. He can go back to being the Tannehill, who was one of the most efficient quarterbacks in the NFL since taking over as the Titans starter. I think last playoff game was so bad that I think it just really made everybody forget how good he'd been since taking over from Mariota. So, but it's also one of those games in which it could be, and you certainly hope this isn't the case, but it could be one of those games where that Bengals game just wrecks Tannehill and he never mentally recovers from it, and that's just who he is going forward. I remember the one I always think about this was Jake Delhomme, where he was
consistent Pro Bowl quarterback, always pretty solid, if not spectacular for the Panthers. And then shortly after the year, they went to the Super Bowl and lost to the Patriots. He seemed to get the yips. He seemed to just kind of completely lose it and just went off a cliff and never really recovered and got back to being the quarterback he once was. So, I mean, is that what happens with Tannehill? I certainly hope not. I don't think that's what's going to happen with Tannehill. I think with our new passing game coordinator, with Todd Downing having a year under his belt as offensive coordinator and hopefully learn from some of the issues he had last year, they can get the best back out of Tannehill again. New group of receivers, new targets. Hopefully it can be a lot better. The big thing we've got, though, that we got to lean on is Derrick Henry should be healthy again. You know, he's had full offseason recover from that foot injury. He did not look like himself in the Bengals game when he first came back. But, I mean, at the end of the day, you have to think there was no scenario where he was going to look like himself in that game. That injury now, I've seen it like happen like 2 or 3 other times with other players, and they're just like out for the season. And Derrick Henry somehow made it his way back and tried to make it work. And he wasn't himself, but he got it done. I like what we did at the running back position in the offseason in terms of building up around him to where there's other options. Obviously, Dontrell Hilliard, I believe that's his name, if I got it correctly, now kind of being the third down back, the passing option back. That gives us something we kind of need because that's just not Derrick Henry style thing, is to be a receiver. Hassan Haskins is a nice alternative if Henry needs a couple snaps off. Work Henry to keep him fresh, so I like that. But yeah, on the defense side of the ball, I think those are the two key defense. How do we adjust to Harold Landry not being there? Offense, can Tannehill get over his performance in the Bengals game? And do we have any new ideas for the offense that are going to help him be better? If the offense can do some things in terms of play calling, in terms of play design that give Tannehill better looks, better options, I think he can be better. I think he can recover from the bad playoff performance, and I think we'll be a good team. If not, if we still have receivers who have no separation or never open, and he's trying to fit it into the tiniest of tight windows, he's going to throw a lot of interceptions, and people are going to blame him and think he's the problem. And I still am not. I'll say this again. The throws, he made bad decisions, but he was not set up for success either in terms of how the play calling went last season. So hopefully those two things can change this year. Hopefully we can get more set up for success in the way we design our offense, and hopefully he can execute that offense a little bit better than he did at times. If that happens, I think we'll be fine. Defensively, if we can find a way to not completely go off a cliff in terms of applying pressure, see any way we can get the same level of productivity out of whoever's going to step into Harold Landry's shoes. But if we can just maintain, if we can just have some consistency, I think the defense will still be fine. I mean, 2 years ago, that was the number one problem. It wasn't the DBs. It wasn't anything like that. It wasn't the coverage. It was we got no pressure on the quarterback. Quarterback back there all day long and pick us apart. So hopefully, we've still got Big Jeff who's going to be crashing into the backfield. He's in a contract year, so he's going to be playing his head off. Denico Autry was the signing of the season last year, so hopefully we'll still get even more. Bud Dupree, his impact went the last 5 or 6 games of the season when he was starting to really find his rhythm, starting to really find his form. He was coming off an ACL last year too, so he's fully healthy this year. He's had a full offseason with the team, so can he be a completely different player? Can he make more of an impact than he did last season? You would kind of hope so and kind of expect him to, so there's some hope. I mean, I still think Harold Landry was probably worst case scenario in terms of players that could have got injured for us. But if some things click into place, I think we're going to be able to keep the ship steady, so to speak. Rashad Weaver has looked great the first 2 preseasons, but then last year basically missed the entire year, injured. Can he translate the kind of good performances he had this preseason into success in the regular season this year? We certainly have to hope so. If I was going to give a score prediction for the game today, be interesting if all week long the weather was looking pretty rough for the game today. Still maybe some rain in the forecast, but it doesn't look like it's going to be as bad as maybe originally thought. I'm going to go 13 Titans. That's my score prediction for today's game. And on that, I'm going to wrap up this stream. I'm going to get my buddy Kyle on here, and we're going to do an actual Titans season preview at some point in time. I think we did it last year after the first game of the season. I think that was productive because it let us actually see what the team really looked like, because you no longer really get to see what your team looks like in preseason anymore. So it's kind of hard to do when you haven't even actually seen the team play. So we're going to cheat. Everybody else will do season predictions ahead of the season. I'm going to get Kyle on sometime this coming week, and we're going to do a season prediction after week 1. After we see what the Titans really look like, we'll get a real accurate, true look at what the Titans season is going to look like. So keep an eye out for that. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel so that you don't miss that when me and Kyle jump on and do that live, or not live, my game day vlog that's going to be coming out probably either late tonight or early tomorrow from today's game, because I'm going to the game at Nissan Stadium to see the Titans beat the Giants 24-14. That is my prediction. And that's all for this stream. Thank you for tuning in or watching the replay or whatever you did. Subscribe to the channel because we got a lot more Titans coming all season